At 9 o'clock, we had New Mexico State, which went 2-10 last year, traveling to Minnesota, which went 9-4. Minnesota favored by 37 points on the Big Ten Network. Diego Pavia is their new starting QB. New Mexico State played... They played... I'm trying to remember. Nevada. They played Nevada. They played Nevada last week. Pretty positive. Double check. Yes. Yep, they played Nevada. This was at New Mexico State, and they lost by a good amount. They did score the first safety of the college football season, so that's at least a bright side if you're the Aggies. But the fact is, you actually did pretty well against Nevada early on, conceivably speaking. You took an early lead, guys. You did a solid enough job. The fact is, New Mexico State is nowhere near as good as Minnesota, which is why Minnesota's favored by 37 points. Tanner,
I hardly know her.
Morgan is coming back as a quarterback for Minnesota for his about 70th year in the program. He went 149 to 249 last year, threw for 2,044 yards, 10 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Mohamed Ibrahim is back, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about probably the best back in all of college football, at least in my opinion, from what I've seen. Mohamed Ibrahim is an absolute beast. He was unfortunately hurt in like the very first game of the season against Ohio State last year, which is in large part why they weren't able to pull off the upset. They were very close to beating Ohio State in the opener, but unable to pull it out in large part because this guy got hurt. Mohamed Ibrahim is such a huge part of that offense. He had 30 carries for 163 yards and 2 touchdowns last year. Chris Outman-Bell is their leading returning receiver. He had 36 catches last year for 506 yards and 6 touchdowns. Minnesota leads this series 2-1 all time. The last two have obviously gone to Minnesota in 2013 and 2018, but New Mexico State was able to beat them in 2011. I think this one's a pretty obvious pick. It's Minnesota all the way. I expect them to win and cover this one. Minnesota's a team I think legitimately can vie for a Big Ten West title this year. Wisconsin, in my opinion, is not the strongest team in the world. I really don't believe it is. Their Graham Mertz is never going to convince me that he can win any games, really. Iowa's an interesting story, too, because they started off the season so hot last year, but then they kind of fell off down by the end of the year. They just weren't good by the end of it. And it was weird, but their offense seemed to have been figured out by the Big Ten defenses. So I don't know what to exactly take away from that. Iowa, but Minnesota, in my opinion, has the most potent offense when they're healthy of the Big Ten West. Maybe Nebraska or Northwestern can have the argument to me too. And Purdue has a pretty potent offense when they're healthy as well. But I think it's Minnesota all the way. The other teams have huge question marks. I don't really have any huge question marks for Minnesota. I think the Golden Gophers could be really good last year. They were down, in my opinion, last year, and they were down their best player, Mohamed Ibrahim. They still went 9-4. So I would say this is a really good football team that has a chance at making a run at the Big Ten West title, very realistically.